This year, the Library of Virginia and circuit court clerks throughout the Commonwealth are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Virginia Circuit Court's Records Preservation Program. This program was created to address the preservation needs of some of the most important records in the state. Virginia's 120 circuit court clerks' offices are a treasure trove of state and local history and contain some of the nation's oldest and most vital legal records. However, these records are also under constant threat from natural and man-made disasters, format and technology obsolescence, and require constant monitoring and care to ensure their preservation for future generations. This effort can only be achieved with cooperation between state and local governments.
The Virginia Circuit Court Records Program is really a model of what a partnership between a locality and the state of Virginia should be. It's been highly effective, and it's been one that those of us at the Library of Virginia have valued tremendously, and we certainly hope the circuit court clerks have as well. It's also been a program that's been a model that other states have looked to, hoping to emulate the successes of the program. The Circuit Court Records Program uses all the traditional methods and approaches of the archival field. Archivists take the old bundles of court records, open them up for the first time in many cases, flat file them, organize them, arrange them, describe them, create finding aids to them, and then conserve those that are in need of protection. They also perform or copy their records for preservation microfilming, which is so important should anything ever happen to the paper. Those traditional methods work effectively and have opened up these records to scores of researchers, but even more importantly, we've been able to use digital technologies to make the records available in ways that when the program began 20 years ago were just unthinkable. The Chancery Records Database and Index project is a prime example of that.
Accessing digital records online is almost taken for granted today, but it was a long process to get there. The Library of Virginia started conducting site surveys of clerks' offices as early as the 1920s to assess the condition of the records in the clerk's care. It then started a program to create photostatic copies of record books to make the important information they contained more widely available to the public. During the 1940s and 50s, the library partnered with Clerks and the Genealogical Society of Utah to implement a program that allowed clerks to have their records microfilmed in their offices. A library-sponsored microfilming program was put in place in the 1970s and 80s, which allowed clerks to have their historic record books microfilmed, and also allowed them to set up a system to film their day-forward recordings. Still, much more was needed to improve access to records and to protect their longevity. In 1989 and 1990, the Library of Virginia and the Virginia State Historical Records Advisory Board completed surveys of repositories of historical records in the Commonwealth. The findings revealed that the greatest need for preservation measures in the state was in the circuit court clerks' offices. Backed by these findings, former state archivist Lewis H. Manor, the Virginia Court Clerks Association, and key legislators built support for the passage of a bill that would establish a Circuit Court Records Preservation Program. The Circuit Court Records Preservation Program, or CCRP program, is funded by the collection of a $1.50 records preservation fee attached to all land transaction recordings, and it carries out three main functions: processing, indexing, and reformatting of records transferred to the Library of Virginia, maintaining and duplicating circuit court security microfilm, and allocating records preservation grants to the clerks' offices. The first grants were awarded to clerks in 1992 and directly addressed the preservation concerns identified in the initial surveys of the clerks' offices. These often pertain to the most basic needs of maintaining their building structures. Many of the courthouses have been victim to fire and flood over the years, resulting in burned and water-damaged records. But the risk to the buildings themselves needed to be mitigated before any of the records could be identified for individual treatment.
The program here has always been a cooperative program between the library and the clerks. My first exposure to the grant program, that portion of the preservation program was through review of the grants that came in quarterly to the library. And some of the issues those grants were addressing were long-term issues of record preservation and access. It surprised me that the very earliest grants that the library got were for security and fire suppression systems and video monitoring of the record room. But those were important things for the clerks to be interested in, for sure.
In some cases, it has been determined that a locality simply cannot provide adequate secure storage for their precious early manuscript records. In this case, the Library of Virginia offers its state-of-the-art preservation storage facilities, the downtown Richmond location, and the Virginia State Records Center, located in eastern Henrico County. It currently holds over 25,000 cubic feet of archival paper records. Storage of archival records is provided without cost to the localities that require it, and the buildings are staffed by archivists who process and index the records. Since the inception of the program, archivists have preserved hundreds of thousands of pages of circuit court records. The library also maintains a media vault that stores over 250,000 reels of security microfilm, provides duplication services for the clerk's offices, and ensures the long-term preservation of circuit court records. The State Records Center also houses a blast freezer, which is essential to address the immediate treatment requirements of wet and pest-ridden records. This equipment has saved countless records from further damage. In the past, these records would have simply been lost.
I think one of the benefits and the strengths of the program really is in its flexibility. We have a number of clerks who have decided for whatever reason to keep all the records in their offices, and we certainly can help the clerks that way through the actual grant program. We also have a lot of clerks who decide to send a lot of their historic and archival records to the archives in Richmond, and we have a team of professional archivists who will work on those records. So I think one of the real benefits, one of the real strong points of the program itself is that we can help clerks however they choose to preserve their permanent records.
Preservation work is also taking place at the Library of Virginia's downtown Richmond facility at 800 East Broad Street. There is a full-service conservation lab staffed by the Etherington Conservation Services, which provides the library with ready access to a knowledgeable professional staff that regularly performs treatments on circuit court items slated for reformatting. Cleaning, repairing, and tape removal all ensure the future life of the documents, while also greatly improving image quality when the documents are filmed and scanned. A full range of high-quality microfilming services is provided on-site by Backstage Library Works, a firm that also serves as the library's digital reformatting vendor. Digital reformatting has been a major part of court records preservation since 2005, thanks to the Library of Virginia's Chancery Record Index and Digital Chancery Initiative, a mass court records digitization project unique among state archives. To date, over 7 million Chancery documents for 57 localities have been scanned. The grant program also provides for scanning of additional records in clerks' offices. An example is the Land Record Collection in Portsmouth, Virginia.
We had a grant for over $147,000 that allowed us to digitize our records from 1857 to 1970. Which made us, at that point, have every record that we have on the land records side of the house in a digital format. We could not have done that without the assistance from the grant program and the Library of Virginia. Our citizens have benefited greatly from this, as well as many of the title companies and the attorneys who do land record recordations within our office. It tied in very nicely with secure remote access, which was mandated by the Virginia General Assembly. And so many of our customers who now have access to my land records through secure remote access, they are able to search from home all of our records from the beginning of Book 1 to the current.
The online Chancery Records Index has also proved a very useful tool for researchers to identify record collections that have been processed and indexed, but have not yet been digitally scanned. These records, once located through the index, can be viewed in their original manuscript form in the Library of Virginia's secure manuscript reading rooms. If they have been microfilmed, they can also be viewed on digital film readers in the spacious modern microfilm reading rooms. The Library of Virginia has an unparalleled collection of city and county microfilm. It is only part of the reason why it is one of the most heavily visited state archives in the country, drawing researchers from around the world. But there is still so much more work to be done to make all the historic records in Virginia readily available to those who need them.
Going forward, the Circuit Court Records Preservation Grants Program is going to continue to be indispensable for clerks' offices as they fulfill their mission to preserve the public record. And without the help of the Library of Virginia, clerks will not be able to meet the needs of the public as well as they could with the program. And that public includes title examiners who use the records for business reason, genealogists, history enthusiasts, and scholars. All of those groups of people have used the records that have been preserved by the grants program over the past 20 years. And that need is going to continue. One of the reasons it's going to continue is because the work is not done because there's so many items, for instance, that have to be conserved. There are older court records that are very valuable that shed a light on the past that haven't been conserved yet in clerks' offices around the state. In many ways, while much has been done, the work is just beginning.
The Circuit Court Records Preservation Program will continue to face many challenges ahead, such as keeping up with changing technologies and responding to natural disasters, while still maintaining traditional conservation standards. Working together, the Library of Virginia and the many dedicated Circuit Court clerks across the Commonwealth are up to the task.